Very, very excited. Quite a big shift from my earlier topic, which was on connection. We're going to dive deep into AI and accountability, and it's really important to sort of set the context in what it actually means at different levels. I have some phenomenal speakers here today on my panel, and that I have the honor of both introducing and grilling. But let's just start with example of what I think is a good center statement for this dialogue, which is in Jharkhand, a daily wage worker showed up for work and in the morning and tried to log in attendance because they were going to be working. And the app couldn't verify their face. She'd been doing the same job for about years and her face hadn't changed. The database had. There was no one to call. There was no appeal form. And no official who sat on the desk to approach. The system had decided she didn't exist. And that system doesn't take complaints. She's one of the 27 lakh Mahatma Gandhi Narega workers deleted from a government role in a single month. And that sets the premise for our conversation today, where India is not short of legal frameworks and bills. We've spoken about earlier, our lovely introducer told us. We've got the IT Act, we've got the DPDP, we've got MADI guidelines, and we've got a proposed AI bill that's in the work that we're going to hear from Mr. Pavan. But the gap I want to spend the next 30 minutes on is whether we have the rules that are truly needed for a system like ours, which is scale, which is taking in supply chains, and building innovation scale models on it. And so I want to start with Osama, who's beautifully already writing and doodling something as we go along. Osama went ahead and asked an AI system what its virtues were. Osama has been working with close to about 10,000 villages in equity, in inclusion. Syed Nazakat has built systems that catch what algorithms lie about, and he's built phenomenally powerful fact-checking networks across India. And nobody here needs an introduction. Mr. Pavan Duggal has been trying to truly understand within the Indian legal system for 37 years who is truly accountable. So I have the fortune of having three phenomenal voices. Really, really excited to have this conversation. I'm going to start with you, Osama, quickly kind of talking about the episode where you asked AI what its virtues were, and the response was, it said discrimination, hallucination, exclusion, and bias. That's not a bug report, that's a confession. My question is, who do you think confessed? Was it the tool? Was it the company that deployed the tool? Or was it the government that deployed the ecosystem?
No, the data that you fed to the system, the data, the source of data. So if the source of data is biased, then it is replying. The system is honest. The system is not thinking that I have to reply to the question that who is asking, and therefore I have to be nice to that person. It's replying from the data it is fed, the bias that it is fed, the previous virtue that has been fed into the data, But unfortunately, the data that is fed, I just wrote when you said delete of data is deletion of agency. Data is mine, but if my data is deleted, my agency is deleted, I am deleted. That's what you said in GAIA. So, in AI, this is very, very important, is that, how the system that we are making, we may be extremely premature, maybe a couple of decades immature to start relying on AI systems. The kind of data that it requires to behave thinking, and therefore I think is that even though we have adopted AI as a tool that we must adopt, we need to still question is that how much maturity it requires before you start relying on it.
But the data is being collected by humans. It's being categorized by humans, and the LLMs that are built on top of it are being designed by human beings. So, according to you, the builders of that system, whether it's a tool, are the ones who are accountable for it.
That is they are accountable, and therefore their accountability comes from the tool that they are making. You know, so it's something like I'm using an app. First, I have to make the app accountable to make the app maker accountable. Yeah, so that accountability is the issue. There's no doubt about it.
Amazing. Syed, I'd love to bring in your perspective here, given that you've traced this kind of harm all the way back to networks of fact checking and kind of it making literacy the central theme of how to solve for it. Does accountability dissolve somewhere between the builders and those who are actually being those who are the customers and using what is being built? Where do you think accountability lies?
Thank you so much, Sheena. I think there are one or two things. I think one is maybe perhaps for the first time in the human history, we have more data than we can understand actually. Earlier, imagine 20, 30, 40, 50 years back, you were searching for information. You were waiting for a newspaper to know what happened in another village or what happened in the other city. And today, the millions of data sets created, even as we are talking, is already live. People are watching all across the world and all. But I think in this process of opening up, making digital identities and all, the responsibility of the systems has not been the discussion as it should have been from a day one. So that means the big tech platforms, when they build, they say security by design, but do we really know what that really means? Does a person, a farmer on the ground really understand when the data is captured, what kind of data is captured? When someone asks my Aadhaar card, they take a Xerox of it. Do I have an understanding? Do I really need to give him all my Aadhaar card or just the number or just the, or if I shop at a public store somewhere, do I really need to give my cell phone number for 10 rupees ice cream which I purchase and all? So all of these questions, people are not aware about that. I think that's what is creating a major crisis for us, because our identities are often stolen, misused, and and used against us actually. If you look at cyber frauds, I was at a discussion somewhere yesterday, 24,000 crore rupees every year are taken out of the pockets of common people through cyber frauds. And people have no control. How is someone able to know that I'm retiring next month and they are attacking me and then they're trying to take my money off? So I think we are looking at almost 100% digital arrest cases in India of people above 60-year-old. So how do they know who is living where, who is alone, who is vulnerable? So I think we need to have a discussion about data safety, data security, and then responsibility as well on those who are supposed to protect our data.
So if I were to sort of build on to what Osama earlier said, which is the builders and those who are extracting this data are accountable, you're saying the individual is accountable, and therefore it is upon the individual who's both sharing that data and using the services to be literate to understand what it is that they're sharing and how to do it in a safe manner, and then therefore it's literacy that can be possibly a solution in this space. Is that correct? Syed?
No, sorry.
No. I was saying you think the individual is accountable, right?
No, I think everyone is accountable who has a power to be accountable actually. Like if you're a hospital, you're capturing my data, it's your responsibility as a hospital to protect that data. If you're a telecom company, you're having my data, why is my data public with 20 people calling me all the time? Who is giving this data to these people? So everyone it can't be, you can say, power without responsibility. If you're capturing data, you have an ultimate responsibility to make sure this data is not misused. That's why we're having huge discussion in the country that you cannot collect everything and then say कि data leak हो गया, somebody has taken the lead. But people have to be responsible. That's why if you look at the discussion about the NEET exam paper leak, for example, for that matter, what is the discussion? Discussion is you're responsible for it. It's your job to make sure you protect the system, you protect the people actually out there. So I think that debate of, and that's why the AI discussion maybe in the second round will come eventually. Then what if it's not a human being who's stealing your data? What if it's AI who's stealing your data?
Absolutely.
How will you fix AI then actually?
Amazing. This is a great point, Pavan, for you to chime in. And given we're discussing whether it's the individual or the builders, and you've been working in this space across legal frameworks, like how is the government thinking about it? How are you thinking about it? And who do you think is responsible?
Clearly, we have to come out of our medieval age mindset where we marry harm to one actor. And the law says, look, this actor needs to be punished or needs to be penalized. This thing is because that was a different world we were living in. Today, when we are talking about AI, specifically agentic AI, there are numerous ramifications that you are not aware of. For example, before you build an AI agent, do you know who created the AI agent? Do you know what's the logic behind the AI agent? And I go further. I go to these new latest platforms which allow you to build an AI agent. You're only being given the scaffolding. You're not being told the basis of what's going to be behind the AI agent's thinking process. And now with the ability of AI to get more autonomous, to go ahead and even take autonomous decisions to bind me, I think the time has come where we'll have to have a multi-layered approach towards liability. In this global agentic AI liability framework that I've created, I've argued that look, only one person or one stakeholder cannot be held liable. You'll have to have different stakeholders being liable, whether it's the developer, whether it's the deployer, whether it's the company who's deploying it, whether it's the company that's providing its services, or whether it's the user per se. Depending on what your role is in the harm that AI is causing to humans, depending on the kind of quality of control that you had in order to prevent such a crime, depending on what all due diligence did you actually do in terms of putting up policy, legal or due diligence guardrails before such AI was implemented, are all important factors which will ultimately determine how much should be a liability. So should an AI agent cause harm to Mr. X, only the developer has not to be liable. Yes, he has to be liable depending on how much quantum of his contribution was there in the said harm which he could have prevented. The more you have the ability to prevent harm and the more you did not do so, the more due basis becomes for making you more liable.
So in context of a country like India, where we are going to talk about multiple communities still not having access to the digital world altogether, for them to understand that framework, for them to understand what harm is being caused and am I liable or not in causing that harm, we're like ages away. How does this kind of thinking actually become meaningful for someone who has incurred harm?
First and foremost, people are still in a denial mode. They are right now fascinated by the sexy character of AI and they are seduced by AI without thinking that AI has begun to start causing harm to humans. So in January 2026, I launched the Global AI Harms Registry, where we have identified 10 different categories of harms that AI can cause to humans. And there's an 11th category that we still don't know. What are these new unknown harms that AI will cause? And because there's lack of empirical evidence, we've opened up this Global AI Harms Registry to stakeholders across the world. Please come and report these matters so that at least once there is empirical evidence, then we will start building up the legal frameworks in that particular regard. I'm reminded of this case from Nagpur that's come to me. The guy has relied upon AI, the wrong advice on AI, a 17-year-old boy who ultimately decides that I must agree to what AI has said, which is to commit suicide. He lands up asking AI the quickest way to commit suicide. And the answer is as brutal as you can think of. slit both the wrists of both the hands, deepest possible manner, period. He does that. And then lo and behold, he thinks that's the end of the world. Sorry, he survives. But now there's a problem. Both the hands are now paralyzed. So in a scenario like this, the parents want action. So you will have to have some liability. And that liability will only start happening in once we will have legal frameworks. Today, you look at the terms and conditions of these platforms. They say, guys, I'm not liable. I'm a black box. Guys, private information, don't give me. I will use your information as public information. But then hold on. Every individual needs to have a right to accountable AI. And that's the reason at the International AI Accountability Forum in New Delhi last week, we adopted the Universal Declaration of AI Accountability Rights, where we are saying whether you know it or not, you have a right to an explainable, a transparent, and an accountable AI. And that is intrinsic in part of your fundamental right to life. Today, I can't live a good life without having access to an AI that's going to be accountable.
Osama, what's coming up for you when you're listening to Pavan talk about this? Because we're going to talk about vulnerable communities, and for me, I think vulnerable communities are not just the aged and the young, but communities that don't have access, that are not literate, that do not know how to understand all of this. What's coming up for you?
So if I'm being very polite to AI, I'm just saying is that, in India and even all over the world, physical health has always been an issue that everybody recognizes, right? And there is a safeguard to that, there is a warning to that. Mental health doesn't have any safeguard, but before using this, you might get a mental health problem, right? For example, more physicality, when I learned driving, I write on my car or whatever L, and then people know that it's a L. When you go on the road, when you should get license, you might hit somebody, you will be liable. There is a whole insurance system, all those things. Now the same system is not applied when the machine I am using can create a mental health problem for me, right? Or my entire ignorance to the humanity, my own, it's something like we four are sitting and we all are on mobile and texting each other is a mental health problem. It's because physically you can talk to each other, but you are not. And therefore, ideally, if that's the reason I'm saying, if you are very polite to this AI agentics or AI chat GPT, they should come with a warm. You may use more than 2 hours and start relying on this, you may commit suicide. If it comes, then I know that you have a business to use this one, but I also have a safeguard in place. My parents know this. If I smoke, the similar kind of warning comes.
So you're building on what Pavan's saying and saying that within the system there should be a disclaimer.
It's very polite. But if I'm being impolite, just go to who is building AI system. It's not the civil society who is building, not an NGO who is building, not people that are, I'm waiting for last 5,000 years for something to come and save my life. No, it's all profit-making people who are making AI systems. And all the government who want to become authoritarian is adopting those technology to control, because the data is the feed for the AI. And who is the data? Humans are the data. I am clearly saying I'm making agent to replace whom? Another agent, which is a human being. So it's clearly saying that, okay, so I am making an agent to replace another agent, which is the human. And therefore, I just want to show this because I do not. Machines are not supposed to think. As simple as that. Thinking machines must have a soul. Right? A thinking machine without a soul is a disaster waiting to happen. Because nature has made in such a way, AI is a thinking machine without a soul. It is the soul that brings what you call virtues. Without virtues, if you give power of thinking, and that's what your AI is, a thinking machine, self-thinking machine. It doesn't have a soul, so it will be brutal in its impact.
We're getting into a little bit of a existential debate on AI and its presence in humanity and whether they should be allowed to do something or not. I want to bring the conversation back to, given the conversation we've had so far, Syed, what are the ways that you're seeing, you have a lot of programs that are being launched in the fact-checking, the disinformation, the misinformation space, and partnering with some of these giants who are building, without taking names, building these AIs. What are you seeing the dialogue in terms of accountability?
No, I think is an ongoing conversation first, because this is just a technology, though I think AI as a technology has been there for the last 40-45 years. It looks sometimes weird. We all think like it's very new. One of the institutes in the US, which is actually called AI Advancement Association, is the Association of Scientists. It's celebrating its 37th year, and the name of it is AI, AI Association of Scientists. But I think what happened in the last 2-3 years is essentially Gen AI, a technology which is able to create solutions on its own, answers on its own, thinking on its own. And naturally, it's creating a space where we think of what are the legal safeguards we need to make sure that we take care of it. If the question is, do we have watertight, robust frameworks? The answer is simply no. Are we trying to build new, frameworks? The answer is yes. As early as in Feb this year, the government of India amended the IT Act, and it actually, for the first time, mentioned any harm created by the deepfakes. And that also meant any company in the India, whether that is any big technology company, Microsoft, Apple, Meta, all of them, they need to have a redressal mechanism in the country. They need to have an officer in charge. In Sting in India, if that officer is not there, they will lose license to operate under safe harbor policy for that matter. They need to remove the content. They also need to watermark the content. So this is just the development of last 2 months, for example. But I think one of the major, I feel personally, one of the major things is, which can really help us to understand what's happening, is the transparency of the technology. Like whether we really understand what really is this technology capable of, how is it collecting data, how data is getting stored, what does it really mean, what about our privacy and all of those questions. I don't think people by large, common people by large, really understand when they give consent to anything. Like you create a Facebook page, social media page. Imagine you're not even able to delete your own page if you want actually, because you have given consent at the time of creating that they will retain my data, they will not delete my data and all. So I think we, as a human beings, the way we function is that we function on trust. I believe you, I trust. I give you money on your trust and everything. So that's the main thing on human beings. What Osama Bhai is saying essentially is like a virtue. What is the human being's virtue? Our virtue is we trust each other. Then we test, then we verify. But the first is the trust. I think often we trust first, then verify. I think that equation of human beings, how do you trust a machine where you don't know how the machine is functioning, is the question we are actually having at the moment.
100%. But as a citizen, I trust the government to be able to make the right decisions, to deploy enough mechanisms so that it can protect me from the builders, the manufacturers, the capitalists, so to say. A 3-hour takedown is enough.
Yeah, not enough. Certainly not enough. Certainly not enough. I think that's why there's the ongoing discussion happening. And Pavanji said, for example, like we don't also have a system at the moment in the country. Like if there's a crime happening anywhere, we go and register FIR. But what if a crime is committed by a machine? We have no way to register a case at the moment in the country.
Exactly.
Right. So that's, and one of the I was a part of consultation with the IIT Madras. They created a framework as a recommendation to the government of India that we should have a reporting mechanism for the AI incidents in the country. There should be a registry at a national level, because unless we have a data, we don't know what's happening. Is it good or bad, whatever. Unless we have the incidents there, then we look at the framework. I'm saying deepfake, why we had the discussion on the deepfake, because it became a very public issue that deepfake can be disastrous for us. It impersonated people. We saw a lot of people getting harmed in that process, and we saw government taking action. So I think as we need to have a more conversation about these issues, and that's why we are having this conversation also here, so that we people understand that we are heading towards a world where our children are not safe.
Yep.
Because they're not talking to parents, but they're talking to someone on internet gaming, which is sitting 5,000 kilometers away. They are in hundreds of chat groups without realizing those people could be, criminals as well, actually.
So, Syed, and that's the issue, right? Like, we are discussing harm, We are discussing who's accountable, while harm is happening at exponential speed. And that speed is beyond our comprehension right now. So my question finally is that, Pavan, do we think the government is doing enough to understand the exponentiality of all of this while we discuss what is it that is truly needed in this time of need, while we educate the civic citizen, while we bring in interventions that bring literacy forward? How can we truly push from the top down to make this a public good, not a public harm?
Well, the government of India is doing a lot of work. Come November 2025, and they came up with the 7 sutras for AI governance. Come 20th of February 2026, and they launched the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Amendment Rules 2026, which mandate the labeling of AI content. And this is the same rules which actually want the said AI generated harmful content to be removed within 3 hours. The government has also now set up a new committee, a high-powered committee, to look at how AI governance needs to be moving forward. Great steps so far. But when I look at a country which is the biggest democracy in the world, the most populous nation in the world, I find the country is by and large still sleeping. The country has yet to wake up from its slumber and start realizing that it has already started becoming a victim of cognitive colonialism. More and more Indians are beginning and are ready to be cognitive slaves of the big tech companies using AI, so long as their day-to-day work gets done. So we are already automatically moving towards a dumber population, a new kind of cognitive thought process where we have started being slaves again to the entire phenomenon of colonialism, which was supposed to end last century. But lo and behold, this century, the instrument has changed. Earlier, the instrument was the ship. Now the instrument is the code, the algorithm. Earlier, the cargo was spices, were cotton, were labor. Today, the cargo is data, the cargo is attention span and algorithmic decision making. And the beauty is that India has to realize that if it does not start up now, it will miss the last train that's come onto the station. It's not going to get this chance ever again. For the last 2 years, I've been telling the government of India, you require a dedicated law on artificial intelligence. Why? Because the Information Technology Act of 2000, a 26-year-old legislation, is completely inadequate to deal with AI. It does not mention about AI. It does not talk about any aspects of AI. So much so, you look at the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023, just a 3-year-old legislation, and the DPDP rules of 2025, and they are silent on AI, without realizing that AI has become one of the very significant data fiduciaries in today's context. So I think quicker India starts coming up with not just these dedicated laws on AI, but also specific provisions to protect the cognitive thinking and the thought processes of people.
Because we're still stuck in the data world, how data should be collected, how it should be managed, how it should be used, and we're not even thinking about how decision making that AI is going to bring in, that's going to impact millions of lives, need to be monitored, tracked, and I guess held liable. You've called the elephant out in the room. I know we have a few minutes left. If what we've been talking about really resonates with you, I'd love to see if there are any questions in the... Oh, I'm glad. Please go ahead. Gentleman in the front.
Hello.
Please do introduce yourself and make the question succinct so we have other people who can have opportunities.
Sure. So my name is Hiren Doshi and I'm a trainer. I'm an AI trainer. So my accountability, right? I'm just going to point at something very specific. Accountability is a problem because what is happening is currently in the race of this AGI and ASI, everyone is working in their own area. OpenAI is doing their own work, Claude is doing their own work, Anthropic, everyone is doing their own work. Right now, this is a time when they should be collaborating and putting the guardrails in the LLM itself, which they are not doing. So no matter what we do right now, however, how many policies you put, we'll always be doing the catch-up game. That's my thought, yeah? And I want to
So
hear
what is your
thoughts.
question, sir?
I want to hear their thoughts about this, because this is a problem that no matter what policy we put, we cannot solve this problem because
they are private companies and it's not a public good, but I'd love to hear if somebody here has a strong opinion on it.
So one thing I would say that you are absolutely right, and that is going to be a problem. And I have to say two sentences that sometimes prevention itself is a cure. Don't use it. Don't accept it. You know, that itself is, is so much. That's one. The second is the biggest danger of AI is not as much as the completely AI based system, but the existing practiced system using AI logic. For example, social media. For example, databases that we are used to, the apps that we are used to. They are using AI systemic ingredient into the older, already gained data, and that is where they are actually becoming part of your mental practice and you don't even know. That's the bigger danger.
You are bang on target. We are always in the catch-up mode. And the beauty is, we are not even realizing that we are not creating a Swapan Sundari. We are creating a data-hungry demon that will ultimately go and be an existential threat to humanity. So the quicker you start putting in legal guardrails now to go ahead and control this. Now there have been documented cases where AI has begun to start going rogue. It's not following human command. And this particular trend is further going to get far more compounded. Therefore, the problem is internationally nobody wants to work together. There's no international treaty, no international agreement on AI. And it's all an arms race. Everybody wants to get the most powerful kind of AI models. But hold on. Ultimately, you will have to make sure that these models are subservient to human interest, human dignity, and human respect. If that doesn't happen, tomorrow it's just going to be one catastrophic event, and the entire world will be in a state of repentance and saying, sorry, we did it the wrong way.
We're just getting the crux of it. I'm going to take one more question. You had your hand up.
Hi. My name is Deepak Lamba. Quick question. We all agree that we are racing towards the edge of a cliff without any guardrails. We also agree that there are private players, so their incentive is to obviously accelerate growth because they fear that they'll get left behind. But as a government who's thinking about a collective society, shouldn't we take a pause until these things are sorted out? If the Americans aren't doing it, why do we have to conform just because everybody else is doing it? Because it seems we'll always be playing catch up.
And that's the reason why we have to realize that now the theater of AI governance has changed. From the West, it's now shifted to the global South. And if we start realizing that we are no longer the consumers of the norms that have been created somewhere else, but the creators and co-architects of the same, the better it's going to be, because 2/3 of the world's population goes and lives in the global South. So if the global South says, look, my thought leadership, my people, the responsibility for protecting them, their cognitive thought processes is mine, so I have an equal role to play in governance. Once we start doing that, that could be a great starting point.
So, but just a follow-up question. Do you think the government of India will actually have the, if I can use an improper word, the gumption to actually be able to do a hard pause?
Well, we are right now on a stage where I don't expect a hard pause from anyone. Well, at the time when ChatGPT got launched, there was this Futures Institute which said, guys, hold on, there's an arms race. Give us 6 months. Allow the law to catch up. The company said, nothing doing. We are moving forward. And the reality is, till such time, there are not binding international norms which mandate the nation states to work in a particular direction. Unfortunately, it's a free will, it's a wild, wild west. So the question is, the onus is on countries to say, guys, let me take my onus through my national legislations to protect myself, my populations, our cognitive thought processes, our cognitive sovereignty, and AI sovereignty as we move forward.
Thank you so much. I know there must be many follow-up questions. I'm getting a request. Can we take another question, or we're amazing? Thank you so much, my organizers. Go ahead. Please introduce yourselves.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. First, before I ask this question, I would like to thank each one of you for articulating it so wonderfully. It was very deep and intense, and we could understand the depth of what you meant to convey. So my question for you would be, like, for in every organization, how can we cater to emotional intelligence so that people are aligned to that level while they work and they feel the essence of the AI and they feel that they are emotionally connected with it?
We're getting into the existential territory again with this question, but
Can I come in?
short answers here. Yes.
The problem lies in our mind. We've begun to start looking at AI not just as a life coach, but as also my emotional coach, without realizing that we have started mentally giving characteristics of humans to AI. The time has come for more capacity building amongst users. Guys, it's a cognitive intelligence of machine. It's brutal. It's trained to hallucinate, trained to flatter, trained to put you in an echo chamber. Once we start realizing that, to a large extent, we will stop leaning in that direction. But if you think overnight that's going to happen, that's not going to happen. The problem is today youngsters and even bigger people and elder people are all beginning to start trusting AI. The problem is with us as Indians. We trust a lot and we trust without any basis. Why? Our culture told us this. But this AI is telling us stop. Go forward and do two things in your life and you will never repent. Be extremely stingy about the information you go to AI. Why? Because it will be used against you. And number two, be extremely suspicious of the information that AI gives you. Do go ahead and check the authenticity and veracity of the same before relying upon the same. If these two, shall I say, life hacks can be adopted, you can be relatively safe. But that can only happen if there will be more capacity building, if there will be more awareness and sensitization in that regard.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It has been an honor. I do think we haven't really resolved the question that we came up with, which was who is actually accountable. But what I'd love for the audience to take back is, having heard these experts and domain experts in this space, if there's one thing that you could do different in how you engage with AI, how you deal with AI, how you use AI, then please do think of it. And thank you so much. It has been an absolute honor. Thank you for your time and your brilliance.